There are a lot of opportunities coming up in spring football, but a lot of pressure. Which Hurricanes have the most pressure this spring?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We are free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We're celebrating Truth Teller Tuesday on a Wednesday, President's Day, not to mention I had some food poisoning, threw off my entire week. So we got the man, the myth, the legend with us, Bruce Warner. I know Bruce, he's putting pressure on me heading into spring football. He keeps me on my toes. How you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing great. I'm doing pretty well. I missed yesterday's show, obviously, but it's okay because I had a hearing. So today's a better day anyway. So we'll do a Truth Teller Wednesday.
Yeah, truth, the whole when you have a Monday holiday, it throws off the entire week. It's a Wednesday, but it feels
you were
like
sick.
Tuesday.
You said you were sick. You texted
I did.
me and said I don't feel well.
I had food poisoning, and I think it's gotten through my system. I don't know if it was the tacos or whatever it was that I had on. I guess it was on Monday, but
Tuesday.
I had the tacos on Monday. That might have been my problem. So we are, March 4th. We're about a week and a half away from spring football getting started on the Green Tree practice fields, and I'm thinking about a couple of different angles here, Bruce. I want to start with which Hurricanes players have the most pressure, because there's pressure on Miami to make a big jump this year. Las Vegas over under at 9.5 wins. Okay. Miami is among 3 favorites to win the ACC. Miami, Clemson, and Florida State are all up there, considered to be contenders. Year 3 of Mario Cristobal, year 1 and only with Cam Ward at quarterback puts a lot of pressure. And so I definitely feel, Bruce, and based on what I'm getting to know about his personality so far, I think he's definitely up for this. Cam Ward obviously has a lot of pressure because there's this, and I think it's a little unfair, but there's kind of a Xavier narrative being created around him, given all the hype in the offseason and him choosing Miami over the NFL. But I think there's definitely a lot of pressure on Cam Ward. I think there's pressure for different
reasons. He's my number one. He's got
your number one?
Pressure. He's my number one. He's got the most pressure.
We'll talk about him and talk about who else is on your list, because I see you have handwritten notes, which is very impressive to me how prepared you are today.
Listen, I said to you a few minutes ago, who has the most pressure? Every single one of them. Every one of those players has pressure. You just can't discount any of them and say it's a non-issue. They all have to be able to step up. They all have to do their job. Every one of them's got pressure. Because I think this is a pressure year for Mario. Not in terms of being fired, but, it's 12 and 13. Let's see how much of this was on Tyler Van Dyke. Let's see how much of this was on the offensive coordinator, Shannon Dawson. Let's see how much this was on Mario for lack of preparation, forgetting the knee part, the second half of North Carolina where we just laid an egg. After playing a great first half, we went into the tank because they had a hurry-up offense, and we were not prepared. So there's a lot of things and a lot of people with pressure. So I throw the pressure on every single one of them, all the coaches and every damn player, because there's still a lot of wide-open positions.
Yeah.
Now, if you need me to talk about who has a lot of pressure, I don't know if it's the word pressure so much, but opportunities is important too.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, to me, Ahmad Moten has a fabulous opportunity.
I don't talk about him enough. I'm so glad you bring him up. I mean, because he looks the part. Like Ahmad Moten looks like somebody who should be an all ACC or all American defensive
tackle. He's got the build of Cortez. He's 6'3", 300 and something pounds.
Yeah.
And he looks like a run stuffer. And he's gotten it a few times, and he's been here his third season with this system. He knows what's going on. I don't know how good he is. I don't know how hard he works. I don't. But he has the chance to have he could be a 3-year starter on this team if he steps up. And look, you got Josh Horton, who's behind him, obviously. You've got Harrison Hunt, who's played a lot. but he doesn't have the build to be a D-tackle run stuffer. So I look at Moten as a guy who could be someone with I'm not saying he could. He has a fabulous opportunity to become not only a good college player, but make it in the NFL. He's got the build.
Yeah, and about some other players that I feel have pressure, and a lot of this I put it because in some cases they are asked to fill the shoes of starters who are no longer on the team, or opportunities, like you said, to become more featured in the rotations or in the starting lineups. Again, I feel good about the way that Cam Ward is handling his situation so far. I talked about him the other day, that he's always in the building. He's conducting himself like a professional. He's getting to know his teammates. I can see the leadership that he's putting out there. I'll tell you, Bruce.
I'm not worried about him. Are you worried?
No,
about
I'm not.
Him? I'm not worried.
No, I'm not worried about him whatsoever.
I expect him to be good, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you who has some pressure this year, Bruce, because he's got to get all the penalties and the off the field stuff. He's got to focus. Is Jacoby George?
Malinois.
I thought I see. I'm saying Jacoby George.
Oh yeah, that too. But you know what? He's doing great in class. He's got a high GPA.
Okay.
Yeah, but he had a good year last year. His year was defined by the stupid things he did. He had some big plays.
Got to clean that up. Yeah.
But I expected him to be good. I do. I expect him to clean it up and be good. But I think Malinois on the offensive line, he had a good year. But I'm sure he's learned a lot. I'm sure he's even bigger and stronger than he was last year. Whatever baby fat he had, hopefully it's turned into muscle. And he's got to cut down on the mistakes, the mental mistakes, the false starts. He had a lot of holding penalties. But I expect him to be just dominant, and that's how I look at it. It's not that he has an opportunity. He's going to start. But he just needs to clean his. I'll tell you who I think has a big opportunity is McCoy. I think McCoy is going to wind up stepping in at the left guard. I expect the center to come in here and be able to start like Matt Lee did in 1 year. I expect that. Yeah. And the other guy I think I'm looking at the line is Okunlolu. He had an injury. I don't know much about it, but he comes in as a 5-star. Yeah. And he needs to get into that spring and show that he could step in and play either inside or outside if need be. Now, I don't want to jinx anything, and I'll knock on wood, but our offensive line was healthy last year. He really didn't suffer any big losses. And I don't know if that's going to happen again. That's why I said McCoy and Okunlolu. And, of course, there's a couple of other guys, the backup guys that need to get like Kinsler. They need to be able to step in and not have a drop off. And so I'm expecting that because I expect the offensive line to be solidified. So that's one less thing we have to worry about.
I think you made a great point because we take it for granted the fact that Miami had the bowl game was different because you had the opt-outs, but throughout the 12-game regular season, Miami had the same starting 5 offensive line the entire year. They did, McCoy got in, some other guys got in on kind of a rotational basis. Okunlola got in some before he got hurt, but they had these same 5 starters all 12 games in the regular season. Yeah. Now, you can say hopefully we're lucky enough to have that situation a second time, but Alex Mirabal is always preparing for inevitabilities that at some points you may have injuries. I think that's one of the reasons why they're so conscious of cross-training everybody on the offensive line. So when we talk about, we think about a guy like Okunlola as a tackle, but believe me, they are preparing him to play guard as well if need be. Markel Bell at 6'8", we think about him as being a tackle, but I'm sure they're going to be preparing him to play guard as well. They do have Cristobal's nephew, Lou Cristobal, who could probably fill in just about any position if need be. So they're cross-training all these guys. I think that's a great point. I want to talk a little bit more about the coaching staff when we come back because Miami seems to have now made their moves, assuming nobody else leaves. That's yet to be determined. But Miami's got Chevis Jackson, their new defensive backs coach. Miami, for the past couple of weeks, has had Matt Merritt, their new running backs coach. This is a Truth Teller Tuesday, my friends. It's a it's a Truth Teller Tuesday on a Wednesday, so it's no longer Taco Tuesday. But my friends, you want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm only getting started with Game Time. Guys, you're looking for last-minute tickets to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, not necessarily last-minute tickets because I can find deals months out as well. You're going to find these on the Game Time app. Guys, on the Game Time app, they give you views directly from your seat. So you're going to see the exact angle that you're going to be looking at, which is really important for concerts because you want to see where you are in relation to the stage. You're going to find the best prices, and you're going to have that Game Time guarantee. Guys, if you find seats in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That is the Game Time guarantee. I'll tell you something else I love about the Game Time app. This is the spot to buy tickets. They give you all-in prices, right? They're not going to like tack on those fees at the end where, hey, I'm getting a $15 ticket. No, I'm getting a $28 ticket. You're going to see the upfront prices at Game Time. I'm telling you guys, you need to check this out. Download the Game Time app and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday on a Wednesday episode of Locked On Canes. Your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bruce Warner, I'm thinking about other players who have opportunities. I need to bring this guy up because I know he's one of your favorites and mine of guys we didn't see a whole lot on the field last year. Chris Johnson Jr. at running back.
Yes.
First of all, in spring practice, he's going to get more opportunities because you've got some injuries in the running back room. Mark Fletcher, notably, is likely going to miss the entire spring period. We'll see how he is for the fall. But Chris Johnson...
He may even miss the fall. I'm telling you.
Come on.
I'm not so sure he's going to be ready for the Gators. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not... Look, everybody is talking about what happened to him. He had a Lisp Frank surgery, which is when we had Donnie Solinger on. I spoke to him the day before, and he's a little concerned about that injury. It wasn't a torn Achilles. I know for a fact because I saw him where he was at my friend's store and he had the boot on and he had one of those scooter things. So he had one of those scooters. So we'll see what's going to happen, but he's out. I don't know what's going to happen with Citizen. That's somebody that we're all going to be looking at in the spring to see whether he's hobbling around and dragging his foot or is he really ready to go? Because
I want to say something about Citizen real quick because I know like he's going through all the off-season workouts. I've heard he's healthy. He's got no limitations. Now he wears like the biggest brace I've ever seen over that formerly injured. I'm guessing that's probably like for his own confidence because a lot of guys who have the serious knee injuries, they like to wear that protection kind of for their own peace of mind. I don't know if he's going to wear this, this brace forever or if he's going to get through that, but I have heard, and he's out there working out, which is fantastic. And I've heard he's healthy now. He's fully healthy again.
I don't know what kind of speed he's got. I don't know. I doubt he's been hit at all, but we'll find out. Right. By the time we actually go to watch the practice the week before the spring game, we'll see. We will see. But Chris Johnson, but there's other guys too. There's A.J. Allen. Parrish to me is a good player, but he doesn't scare the defense at all. He's good. He's a solid running back, but he doesn't have the take it to the house speed. So I'm sure all these backs, even the young kid, Riley's going to get some time in there. But I think the running back situation will be good, especially if Fletcher's healthy. They need him.
Right. Well, let's talk about that group a little bit because obviously a guy who we've seen has take it to the house speed because he did it a couple times last year was A.J. Allen. Yes. You mentioned him. He's got an opportunity. In the case of Parrish, he's so well rounded. I think that's why. Like, if Fletcher's not ready to go for Florida, Henry Parrish would probably start that game because they can trust him to do everything. He can pass protect. He can run well, even if he's not necessarily a game breaker. Again, Trevante Citizen is a big question mark. We'll know more about how he's doing once we get through spring and once we get through fall. You got the young guys coming in. Wheatley Humphrey is here early. Jordan Lyle is not. So we're not going to really be. So if you hear us not talking about Jordan Lyle in spring, it's because he's not here for spring.
Right.
But it's a deep looking group on paper. And then once Fletcher is back, Fletcher is, probably the most complete back on the team. Not a game breaking guy, but he's got a decent combination of speed to go along with his immense power. So it's a group that I really like, Bruce. And obviously,
I said Riley, but I meant Lyle.
Oh, you said I didn't catch
I
that.
did say Riley, but I meant Lyle. My brain.
He wishes he was here probably after.
Yeah, well, he's not, but that's okay. So let's get in all seriousness. The running backs, I think, are going to be okay. I want to see how they use Johnson, but you and I both know, since the first show we did, that we have our eyes on Arroyo and now Williams. Both of them.
Great
Both of them have opportunities. Both of them have pressure. Both of them need to step up. We can't have another injury-filled tight end season. We can't. I'm assuming that Riley's bulked up. He's working on his hands. He's working on his route run. I saw in the game against Louisville, he ran a route. He ran 5 yards and he turned around. The play wasn't for him. The quarterback had to scramble, and he didn't move. He didn't help his quarterback. I watched, and oh my God, they're going to see this on film. So he needs to develop more, not only catching the ball, but the route running and learning his position better to be able to help the quarterback, especially Cam Ward, who's not going to get sacked in 3 seconds. If for the most part, he'll be able to create something out of nothing, and he needs to help his quarterback. They all have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, and to me, Riley Williams, he's got by far the most potential in that tight end room out of the guys who are in there right now, and I'm expecting him to be able to blow up, and hopefully, because I've talked a lot on this show about the reports we're hearing about Cam Ward, working out with guys like Restrepo and JoJo Trader and Jacoby George, and hopefully, and I expect he probably is putting in that type of time with his tight ends as well, because you need to bring that element back to your passing game, and so I'm glad you brought up the tight ends. And Bruce, there's also some receivers who have opportunities, right?
Yeah,
we have a pretty good idea that Restrepo and Jacoby George are both going to start, and then there's going to be a position open. I mean, Isaiah Horton is the guy who's been here, and he's got that body type that's similar to Colby Young, so I think he's got some pressure to get that third starting spot.
He's one of the ones on your list here on the board with big opportunities. He's got a major opportunity. He could be third starter, and he could be the game breaker going deep. He could be. We need that. That would help out a lot. And then, of course, you've got Ray, and you've got the Washington kid, and you got the new kids, as you mentioned, JoJo,
Nykar,
and Nykar. Now, one of those three guys is probably going to be in this rotation, unless Ray's just dominating. But I'd love to see one of those three kids get in the game. I'd like to see that. That would create a lot of havoc for the defensive coordinators, because then you don't know which way Ward can go. But I'm expecting Ward to do things we did not see with Tyler Van Dyke. When was the last time we had somebody like this? The dual threat, the legit dual threat. I mean, Rozier was okay. He wasn't a great. I know he's your buddy, but he was able to run the ball, but still not like this kid is just. He's a step above anybody we've had probably since. I mean, Kaya was good, but he wasn't a runner. And Dorsey was great, but he wasn't a runner.
I mean, he did Derek King, but we didn't see. He had that the really good first year, and then he was hurt the second year. But you got me thinking about something, because one of my listeners, and I'm so sorry I can't remember who it was who asked me this question, but somebody asked me this question on X yesterday. When's the last time Miami's best player was their quarterback? Right? Bruce, does that go? What does that go back to? Gino Torretta, who won a Heisman? Does it go back to Jim Kelly? Because even when Gino won the Heisman, he was throwing to Hall of Famers.
Lamar, and Horace, and I don't know if he was the best player. He was the Heisman winner. Maybe Jim Kelly. You might be right.
It might have been Jim Kelly.
Yeah, because you think about I don't think that Bernie was the best player, but Bernie was the ringleader. Kosar, clearly he couldn't replace him.
Yeah, maybe Bernie. Because you think about it, like some of the great quarterbacks in college football were definitely the best player. Like Joe Burrow was the best player. He was throwing to some killers, but he was the best player on that championship team. Tim Tebow was the best player on the Gators for a couple of years. I would say, there was definitely some good players on that Florida State team, but I think Jordan Travis was probably the best player when healthy on that Florida State team last year. When was the last time Miami's best player was their core? That might be the case this year. Cam Ward might be the best player on this team.
Yeah, well, he's certainly the ringleader.
Yeah.
Or as Reggie Jackson used to say when I worked for the Yankees, he was the straw that stirred the drink. Boy, did he piss off Thurman Munson.
Yeah.
because I was there. I worked for the Yankees. I was
Really? What did you do? What did you do for the Yankees?
I worked from 78 to 82 in spring training down here in Fort Lauderdale. I worked in the where the players parked their car and in a locker room. I did a lot of little things, but I was friendly with all those guys. Anyway, when I want to talk about the defensive guys because there's a million of them that need to step up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unknown. The secondary is pretty much unknown.
Well, a couple of the guys that I put in the big opportunities and some pressure, Mishael Powell, the safety who comes over from Washington.
Yeah, he's on my list too. That's funny you say that. Yeah,
because he started for the national runners up last year. Started every game. Started in the national title game for Washington. Now he comes over, 1 year remaining. And you talk about safeties, they got to fill the shoes for Cam Kinchins and for James Williams. Damari Brown has a huge opportunity this year because he's going to be either a starting corner or starting at the star position this year. I think he's very much in line for a starting job. Yeah.
What about the backup linebackers from last year? What about Bryant and Aguirre?
Yes, Popo, Malik Bryant, Marcellus Pulliam, who showed some good flashes as well. He had a pick.
Yeah. So, and everybody's been raving about him. So
and you know what? Bobby Washington, I think he's crushing the offseason program, Bruce. Like people ask me, like who's making gains in the weight room. I don't have like a full list of the guy of like what they've gained. Bobby Washington's up to 230 pounds of like pure muscle. Yeah, he's like 6'3", 230 pounds. Like that dude looks like he is out for vengeance this year.
Yeah, when you look at the guys that have been there, like Basaint, he was very inconsistent. We can't have that. I mean, he was good in certain games and a lot of missed tackles and overrunning plays, things like that. And then you got Nigel Lee Kelly as a D end. Messidor, to me, on the D line is extremely critical. But you know what? The funny thing is, we're talking about this for like 22 minutes. A lot of this stuff has to do with injuries. We've had injured players, and they need to be able to come back.
Nigel Lee Kelly, same thing last year.
Nigel Lee Kelly, Messidor, Okunlolu. These are the injured guys, Citizen to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So we can't have any more of these major injuries. You can't have 4 or 5 starters be out for the season. We've got to be healthy. But you expect injuries. It's part of the game. And that's why I said at the very beginning, pressure's on everybody. Everybody. Yeah. I don't care if it's an unknown name. You got to be ready to go. And I'm hoping that happens this year. For whatever the reason, without making any predictions, I'm very excited about this game, more so than when Mario first got here, because I could see the changes in the rosters. I see what we're capable of. The consistency is just not there. You can't even tell from one play to the next, from one quarter to the next, how we're going to perform. But I'm hoping there's more consistency, and it all springboards off of what Cam Ward does to me and the defense. They need these guys to be healthy and ready to go. You know what? And I know we're doing another break, but when I look at Cam and Williams, as great as people thought they were, and they had very inconsistent seasons last year. So who am I to say that the transfer from Washington and some of these other guys might not step up and actually be just as good, if not better?
Yeah.
And more consistent, which is what we need. Look at all the blown coverages we had last year. Wow.
Yeah, Cam had a weird year last year because he didn't have he had a lot more consistency in 2022. In 2023, he had some blown coverages. So I want to talk about the coaching staff. As Mario Cristobal, has he finally found the right dynamic here? We'll get to that and more when we come back. Keep it locked right here. We're not going anywhere. Brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. We're making money. We're going to keep it rolling throughout this NBA season. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. Now, our Canes are underdogs tonight, home against Duke, which is, every game for the last month has been a must-win. I don't even think Miami has a real chance at the tournament anymore. But if you do have any chance, beat Duke at home tonight. Let's get it done. Underdogs this evening. Guys, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet at FanDuel. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you check out Locked On Sports today after you're done watching Locked On Canes. This network, Locked On, has launched the first ever 24/7 streaming sports YouTube channel. National experts covering every league and local experts like myself have you covered 24/7 at Locked On Sports today. Make sure you check it out. So, Bruce, seems like the newest additions to the coaching staff. Well, Chevis Jackson has not even been officially announced yet, but I guarantee you he's already working. I know Matt Merritt, the new running backs coach, is definitely working because he's already offered some new running back targets for the class of 2025. These are younger coaches, good track records, especially in the case of Chevis Jackson. I like the fact that he and Lance Guidry have already worked together and have that good working relationship. So if you look at Miami's coaching staff this year compared to 2 years ago, there's a lot less big names and a lot of younger guys. You know, the only guy who you could say is a Hollywood, quote unquote, Hollywood guy is Jason Taylor, the Hall of Famer. But Jason Taylor does not work the way that Hall of Famers usually do. Right. That guy puts in the hours in recruiting. Do you feel like now, hopefully, Cristobal has kind of found the right dynamic with his coaching staff, a lot of younger, hungrier guys?
I hope so. I think so. The secondary is important. Listen, I knew last year that there were issues with a guy. I knew it, and I had heard things that he might be out, and he's out. So I don't know much about Jackson, but I do know that he's worked with Guidry. That's very important. He knows what Guidry wants. He knows what Guidry expects. Now, can the kids learn it and perfect it and play better? Because I thought 1,000,000% the tackling was better last year, clearly better, which was a major issue. So now going into year 3, the tackling still has to be an issue because a lot of different players or players coming off injury, they need to continue to work on the tackling. The safeties need to work on the angles. The angles have still been bad for the last several years. There was some blown coverages where a corner thought he had safety help and he didn't. That's pretty frightening. We've had that. So, and that's what we talked about. I'm expecting this guy to do a better job. I hope he does. But again, the kids have to buy in. The one thing that scares me is that we still don't have a blue chip corner, a guy who was clearly a lockdown that they're going to throw someplace else, but everybody as a unit has to work together. We just don't have these lockdown guys.
Well, and part of that, I've got to put some of that blame on Jamil Adai for that, right? Because, I think that Coach Adai, who's now coaching corners for the Buffalo Bills, and maybe the NFL is a better spot for him because you take the recruiting element out of it. Right. Not saying he was a bad recruiter, but when he's the primary recruiter for these blue chip cornerbacks, and Miami missed out on a lot of the guys that they were trying to get, you have to put that accountability on him for that. So hopefully Jackson does a better job.
Yeah, but all that means a lot, but winning means the most.
Yeah.
When we have what appears to be the right guy taking those snaps, and instead of losing those games that we should never even be in with some of these teams like Georgia Tech and so on, hopefully we can beat these guys. And if we can get to 10 wins this year, the way he recruits, we'll be fine. We cannot have another bust year where we win 7 games or maybe even 8 games might not be enough. To me, that's ridiculous. And I don't care who the other players are on the other teams. I don't care what they've done. There's no reason why Miami should only win 8 games. It's just, I can't believe it. But it's all on Mario. Mario's got to have these kids ready to go, not burnt out during the week, not come out flat one week and then come out like gangbusters the next. I still want to see us come out of that tunnel and kick some ass in the first quarter. We've been behind. We talked about it. We were behind in multiple games, 10 to 14 points. Yep. Can't do that. You got
even some of the games you won, like the Texas
A&M game. We were down.
Yeah.
Can't do that. You got to come out and like Jimmy used to do. Just come out and smack them around, and don't give them any hope. There were teams that had no business being on the same field with us, but they were.
Right. And you think about, opening up the season, like Miami on paper is a better team on paper than the Florida Gators. But you got to go down, you're up from where we are to the Swamp, which is a tough place to play. Crowds there are electric. You know they're going to get up for that game against Miami. So I think you have to start fast and well in that game, Bruce, because you want to take that crowd out of it,
Sure
right? Because again,
and I saw a couple of Gator guys making posts, and some of them on Facebook, that their quarterback's better than ours. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, if the kid has time, he's not a bad passer.
Right, yeah, he's fine, but he's not Cam Ward.
I don't expect him to have much time. I think they're going to track this kid down. Yeah. And they lost the running back. They lost
ETN, yeah.
Yeah, ETN's gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're a mess. Their number one wide receiver, he's gone too. So I don't expect them to be so great. We got to jump on those guys.
We got to jump on them.
And let their fans turn on them,
Yes, exactly. Let their fans start chanting "Fire Billy" or whatever they want.
Right, because that's going to happen. Yeah. I hope it happens in game 1. Anyway, this was fun. We have a long way to go to figure out who's going to be on this roster, who's healthy, but we're getting close. Yeah. We're getting close to the practices. We're getting close to hearing about who's doing this and who's doing that, and I'm getting excited about. And maybe another month from now, we'll be there.
I don't know if I've ever been this excited for spring football. Like we're still, 6+ months away from playing actual games, but I just want something. I want something. Yeah. And hopefully Miami basketball can win tonight, give us something to talk about. Excellent stuff as always from the truth teller, Bruce Warner. I am Alex Donno. We'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.